So how many videos tell you what you should do in? But not a lot of videos actually highlight the 3 worst things you could possibly do around the greens with a wedge. So today's video is all about that. The 3 of the worst things you can do when chipping around the green. Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on Alex Elliott Golf, and welcome to the channel if you're a brand new viewer. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and hit that bell notification below. So what I want you to do is, before we get into this video, I want you to comment down below how many shots is chipping costing you around the green, and at the end of the video, how many of these 3 worst things are you actually doing in your golf game. Check this video out now. So very often these 3 worst things lead to inconsistencies when chipping around the green, and inconsistencies in terms of flight, strike and overall outcome. Now anybody that chips the ball well, I'm a big believer in that they bring the loft of the golf club back to the ball address the same. So these 3 things that I'm going to talk about lead to inconsistencies in terms of strike, distance, accuracy and overall outcome of the shot. Now you look at any good chipper, they're able to control the trajectory, they're able to control the flight, and they're able to control the golf ball consistently every single time. They feel like they can bring the golf club back and it interacts with the ground the same every single time. Now if we can get that in golf club interacting with the ground the same every time, well, we're going to have a good chance of hitting this shot correctly. So let's highlight what the first thing is. So when we're talking about these 3 worst things, we're going to assume we've got a good lie and we're looking for a little bit of a bump and run shot onto the green. I'm just short of the 10th here at Stockport, so I've got about 15 yards to the fringe and then the flag is a further 15 yards on. So I'm looking for a 50-50 shot, 50% in the air and 50% roll out. So the first common mistake I see is that people have this ball position way too far back in their stance, almost on their right toe. And anytime people do this, I think people associate putting this ball back in their stance with creating a good consistent strike, because we feel if we get the ball back in our stance, we can hit down on this golf ball and create a better strike. In essence, it actually is very much counterproductive. Now, sometimes if we want a little low runner, that might be the case, but for this shot, it's going to really harm us. We're going to feel like we've got no loft on the club, and then we're going to have to change angles to do that. So the first worst thing you could do around the greens is put this ball too far back in your stance. So let's hit this one away. And if you guys are watching this, do you struggle with a bit of a stabby contact, bit of a steep divot, and sometimes duffing and getting that leading edge digging in? Well, this is going to really be one of those situations. Let's get on to the next one. Let's now talk through the second worst thing you could do around the green. So first one, we mentioned the ball gets too far back in our stance, almost on our right foot. Now what that's going to do is that's going to encourage this second point. That is going to encourage a lot of forward shaft lean. If we get our weight left and we have the hands forward, we get this leading edge very much pronounced and digging in. So you can see if we're someone who gets the ball back in our stance, we're going to be prone to getting a lot of forward shaft lean, therefore really taking the loft off this club and really increasing the chance of this leading edge digging in. Now anytime we see good chippers or we see things on TV, everyone's talking about getting the bounce to interact with the ground. Anytime we get the ball back, hands forward, the leading edge is going to want to dig. So we're going to really struggle to create consistent contact, especially when we've got a really tight lie as well. It's not going to be very good for us. We're going to feel like we have to time it very well to get that ball out. So the second point is too much forward shaft lean at address, like this position. Going to really promote a downwards hit with the leading edge digging in, rather than a downwards hit and letting the bounce do the work. So let's hit this one away. Looks very much like this, very stabby, very steep contact into the back of the ball. So what I want you to do before we get on to the final comment down below. Are you someone who gets the ball too far back, and are you somebody that gets too much forward shaft lean? Because they're the first 2 points, and for me the 2 worst things we could do when trying to hit this chip onto the green in this scenario. Let's get into the final one. So you can see how the first one leads into the second, and now we're going to talk about how the first 2 lead into the final worst thing you could do around the greens. Now a lot of the time I see people that don't get the ball in the middle of their stance and they have too much forward shaft lean. have to scoop and change their angles to be able to get this ball onto the green. So if we're someone who's got the ball too far back in our stance, and then we've got too much forward shaft lean, what we're going to have to do to get this club back to the ball with some loft, we're going to have to feel like we scoop this ball into the air, change our angles, change our contacts, and ultimately risk inconsistencies in terms of interaction with the ground. And anytime we're doing that, we're changing the contact. So we're changing the club from this position to trying to get the ball into the air in this motion, instead of feeling, okay, a little bit more of a neutral setup, can we come back to the same point and allow the club to interact that way. So the final point here would be mirroring and going through the first two. Ball back, a lot of forward shaft lean, so then we have to feel like we scoop the ball into the air. We see a lot of cupping on the way through with this lead wrist, and very much this position on the way through. So let me hit this one away. Ball back, hands forwards, people with this scoopy motion, and you'd almost hear me there. I bottomed this club out before the ground, scooped up into the air, and you're really going to be prone to fat, thin shots and inconsistencies in terms of delivery, inconsistencies in terms of strike, and overall trajectory out on the golf course. So there you have it, the 3 worst things you can do around the greens when chipping. So we highlighted at number 1, ball too far back, which led us nicely into then getting too much forward shaft lean, which then led us into the 3rd point of having to feel like we scoop this golf ball, change our angles, change our body position to be able to get loft on the face. And I really feel that those first 2 can easily be controlled, and then we actually adopt a better motion to the actual shot. So I'm going to briefly just talk to you about where I want the ball position for this 50% shot. So 50% roll out and 50% in the air. Let's get straight into it. So what does this setup want to look like in terms of how can we stop being ball too far back, too much forward shaft lean, promoting a digging action or a scooping action to counteract that? It's going to be a really nice simple routine we can stick to help you get into a good setup, good position at address, and then a feeling and a concept to stick to throughout the whole motion. So first point to call is I like to have a stance that is just wide of a club head width apart. From this position here, I like to feel like my ball position is going to be very central. So for you people that had the ball too far back, this is going to feel like you're pretty much getting this ball way forward in your stance. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable to begin with, but ultimately it's going to give you a better chance of coming and starting in this position, bringing it back to this position, and not getting into the scenario of the first 2 worst things you could do. So ball in the middle of the stance, I then like to feel my hands are on the golf ball. So you can see here I've got a little bit of forward shaft lean, but just hands on the golf ball. I've not got a sharp leading edge. My hands are on the golf ball and my club face is set nice and neutral at address. And a good way to tell that is if you hold it up into the air, on my golf club here, this all runs in one straight line. If it was closed, the toe would overtake the heel, and if it was open, the club would look more like this. The heel would overtake the toe. So I like to feel that for my neutral normal setup, I like to feel as though I've got a neutral club face, hands on the golf ball, and then just favour my weight to my left side. So that's going to give me a good position to feel like I come back to and hold without having to add loft to create a good scenario down at the ground. Anytime I don't have to try and create and manipulate to add loft, I'm going to be in a good place. So let me hit this one away. Really nice contact, totally different down on the ground there, and that was purely just by moving the ball up and not having as much forward shaft lean. Now, just to add a feeling into the shot and a concept to this shot, I like to feel as though when I'm stood over the golf ball, I'm getting the wheels of the plane. So if we use the analogy that our bounce of our club is now the wheels of the plane, I like to feel as though I'm going to get them brushing the ground. Now, from the setup and the first 2 worst things you could do, that is not possible to do. We would really have to manipulate that club and try and find a way, and it wouldn't be very repeatable. But with a ball position that's in the middle of our stance and the hands that are on the golf ball, we can take that concept of wheels down and just look for the search for the wheels down, not abort the landing and scoop the ball up, but then also not crash land and dig the leading edge in. Now, having a good setup with the ball in the middle of the stance and the hands on the golf ball will make this repeatable, will make this consistent, which is something we're all looking for and able to happen more often. So finally, let's just apply that feeling of wanting the wheels of the plane just to touch down. Let's hit this one away as well. Ball in the middle of the stance, weight favours the left side, hands on the golf ball, wheels down is my feeling. Really nice contact. You can see there, same contacts on the ground, similar trajectory it was started at. So going back to the professionals' way of it, they'll be able to launch the ball very similar every time, and therefore you can create consistencies around the green. It'll also help you pick out a shot easier, so therefore leading to more up and downs and saving your shots going forwards. So if I'm not changing my body and changing my angles, we're seeing greater consistency out on the golf course. So if you just adopted the ball position and not as much forward shaft lean, for 90% of your chip shots, you're going to be in a better place and be able to control the golf club much better without having to manipulate it to get it back to the golf ball. Thank you for watching today's video on Accelerate Golf. Hopefully that's highlighted 3 of the worst things that you could possibly do when chipping: too much forward shaft lean, ball too far back, and then as a result being a little bit scoopy or a little bit of that leading edge digging in. Things that are really going to be counterproductive around the green and really make it hard for you to create consistent strikes, and that's the big word we're all looking for. We're all looking for consistency out on the golf course. So if we can create a better ball position, better forward shaft lean, and ultimately a better concept of getting the wheels to touch down, our chipping's going to go from here to here, so ultimately saving us scores out on the golf course. If you enjoyed today's content, guys, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, and also comment down below which one of the 3 worst things, and if you're all of them, put number 3 down there. Comment down below which of the 3 worst things do you do when you're chipping, and hopefully you've got a fix for that now.